The impossible straight. Close your eyes. Take a long, slow breath in through your nose and let it out quietly through your mouth. Feel the weight of your body pressing against the mattress. You are safe. You are still. You are about to step back in time to a place where the land ends and the vast, untamed power of the Pacific begins. Welcome to the Golden Gate, long before it was ever a bridge. In the year 1800, this place was a world of ghosts and shadows. Imagine standing on the rugged cliffs of the Marin Headlands. The grass beneath your feet is tall, dry, and golden, swaying in a relentless, salty wind. There is no city of San Francisco behind you. There are no lights, no cars, no hum of electricity. There is only the raw, ancient sound of the water. Listen to that sound. It is a deep, rhythmic thrumming. This is the sound of the gate, a narrow opening between the ocean and the great inland bay. For thousands of years, the Ohlone and Miwok people watched these waters. They saw the fog roll in like a living creature, a massive wall of white that swallowed the cliffs and turned the world into a silent, milky void. Take a moment to visualize that fog. It is thick, cool, and damp. It brushes against your face like a soft, wet silk. In this fog, the world disappears. You cannot see your hands. You cannot see the ground. You are floating in a white sanctuary of silence. This is the fog that would eventually become the bridge's most faithful companion. In those days, the Golden Gate was considered a suicide strait. The water here is not like the calm water of a lake. It is a violent, churning river of salt. When the tide changes, billions of gallons of water from the Pacific Ocean try to squeeze through this narrow gap into the San Francisco Bay. The currents are invisible monsters, pulling and pushing with enough force to crush the wooden hulls of the early sailing ships. Imagine a small wooden ship, its sails tethered, trying to enter the bay in the middle of a storm. The sailors look toward the cliffs, but all they see is the dark, jagged rock of Lime Point and Fort Point. The waves are as tall as houses, crashing against the cliffs with a sound like thunder. Boom, hiss, boom. This sound has been repeating for 1,000,000 years. It is the heartbeat of the earth. For nearly a century, engineers looked at this gap and shook their heads. They said it was impossible. How could anyone build a bridge over a mile of water that was 300 feet deep? How could a structure survive the earthquakes that rumbled beneath the seabed? How could men work in a place where the wind blew at 70 miles per hour and the fog blinded them for weeks at a time? As you breathe slowly, think about the impossibility of it. The Golden Gate was a gap in the world that was never meant to be closed. It was a boundary between the known and the unknown. But history is made by those who look at the impossible and see a path. Visualize the bay at midnight in the year 1448. The gold rush has begun. The harbor is filled with hundreds of ships, their masts looking like a forest of dead trees in the moonlight. The city of San Francisco is growing, a chaotic mess of tents and wooden shacks. People are desperate to cross the water. They want to reach the redwood forests of the north and the rolling hills of Marin. But they are trapped by the water. They must rely on slow, creaking ferries that struggle against the tides. Now let your mind drift away from the noise of the city. Travel back to the water's edge. Sit on the cold, dark sand of Baker Beach. The stars above are brilliant and sharp, unaffected by the lights of man. The water at your feet is black and cold, reflecting the silver light of a crescent moon. This is the impossible strait. It is a place of raw beauty and terrifying power. But in the silence of the night, a dream is beginning to form. A dream of steel, a dream of orange paint, a dream of a bridge that would not only connect two pieces of land, but would become a doorway for the world. Feel the peace of this empty landscape. There is no rush here. The tides will come in and the tides will go out. The fog will hide the sun, and the sun will eventually burn through the fog. This is the slow, eternal rhythm of the Golden Gate. Your body now is as heavy as the granite cliffs. Your mind is as wide and open as the bay. You are floating on the surface of history, letting the gentle currents of the past pull you towards sleep. The wind is dying down. The waves are becoming smaller, mere ripples against the shore. The impossible strait is waiting. It is waiting for the dreamers. It is waiting for the workers. It is waiting for the first stone to be laid. But for now, there is only the water. There is only the wind. There is only the silence. Breathe in the salt air. Breathe out the day. You are at the edge of the world, and the world is at peace. Sleep as the tide rolls in. Sleep as the fog covers the gate. Sleep in the heart of the impossible.
The Dreamer, Joseph Strauss. The fog still clings to the jagged cliffs of the Golden Gate, just as it did in our last journey. But now, the year is 1917. The world is changing. Cities are growing, and the impossible strait is no longer just a barrier of nature. It has become a challenge to the human spirit. Today, we look into the mind of the man who refused to take no for an answer. This is the story of Joseph Strauss, the dreamer who spent 2 decades fighting to build a bridge where everyone said it couldn't be done. Close your eyes. Take a long, slow breath. Imagine the air shifting from the salty mist of the ocean to the dry, woody scent of an old office. Feel the stillness of a room filled with rolls of parchment and the faint smell of ink. You are sitting across from a man who is small in stature, barely 5 feet tall, but whose eyes hold a vision as vast as the Pacific itself. Visualize Joseph Strauss at his desk. He is hunched over a massive drawing board. The only sound in the room is the rhythmic scritch-scratch of his graphite pencil against heavy paper. He is drawing lines, hundreds of them, trying to connect 2 points of land that have been separated since the dawn of time. For Strauss, this isn't just an engineering project. It is an obsession. He is a poet as much as he is a builder. He looks at the swirling, violent waters of the gate and doesn't see a suicide strait. He sees a gateway to the future. As you breathe slowly, imagine the weight of the years. Strauss didn't just wake up one day and build a bridge. He spent more than a decade just trying to convince people that it was possible. He traveled from office to office, city to city, carrying his heavy leather portfolios. Imagine the sound of his footsteps in marble hallways. Click, clack, click. He faced the laughter of skeptics. They called him a dreamer. They called his plans ugly. They told him the currents would sweep his foundations away and the earthquakes would snap his steel like dry twigs. But Strauss had a heart of iron. Think of the silence of a man who is waiting for his moment. For years, Strauss lived in that silence. He watched the ferries move slowly across the bay, seeing the frustration of the people. He waited while the world went through a great war. He waited while the changing of presidents and the shifting of tides. Now, imagine the first breakthrough. In the early 1920s, the dream finally began to take a shape that the world could understand. But it wasn't the bridge we see today. Strauss's first design was a strange, heavy hybrid, a mix of two massive cantilever spans. It was functional, but it lacked the grace of the ocean. This is where the story grows quiet and thoughtful. Strauss knew his design wasn't perfect. He was humble enough to listen. He brought in other dreamers, men like Leon Moisseiff and Irving Morrow. Together, they began to strip away the heaviness. They turned the bridge from a machine into a piece of art. Visualize the transition. On the drawing board, the heavy iron trusses disappear. In their place, long, elegant curves begin to emerge. The cables start to look like the strings of a giant harp. The towers grow taller, reaching for the clouds, designed with Art Deco ridges that mimic the light of the sun. Strauss stood on the cliffs of Fort Point, looking out at the empty air. Imagine him standing there in a heavy wool coat, the wind whipping his hair. In his mind, the bridge was already there. He could see the orange steel glowing in the sunset. He could hear the hum of the tires on the roadway. He was living in a future that didn't exist yet. To build the Golden Gate Bridge, Strauss had to fight more than just nature. He had to fight the money. It was the time of the Great Depression. Banks were closing. People were hungry. Who would pay for a bridge to nowhere? Think of the penny campaign of the soul. Strauss went to the people of the neighboring counties. He asked them to put up their own homes and farms as collateral to fund the bridge. He asked them to believe in a dream when they had nothing else. And they did. They saw the fire in the eyes of the small man with the big plans. On January 5, 1933, the first shovel hit the ground. Imagine the sound of that shovel. Thud. It was a small sound, lost in the roar of the wind, but it was the sound of a decade of no finally turning into a yes. The dream was no longer on paper, it was now in the earth. As you drift closer to sleep, think about the persistence of Joseph Strauss. He spent 20 years of his life for a bridge that would take only 4 years to build. He gave his health, his time, and his spirit to the Golden Gate. He wouldn't live long after it was finished, but he knew his work was done. Feel the stability of your own bed. You are like a bridge now, resting on firm foundations. The storms of the day have passed, and you are anchored in the quiet. Imagine Strauss one last time. He is standing at the center of the completed bridge years later. The wind is blowing, but the bridge is steady. He reaches out and touches the cold orange steel. It is solid. It is real. It is his heart turned into a monument. The impossible strait has been conquered not by force, but by a dream that refused to die. The air is cool. The office is dark. The drawing boards are put away. The dreamer is finally at rest. Breathe in the courage of the dreamer. Breathe out the doubts of the day. You are crossing over into the land of sleep. Sleep as the lines on the paper become steel. Sleep as the dreamer finds his peace. Sleep in the shadow of the man who fought the sea.
The architecture of Art Deco.
the color of sunset. We have admired the tall, geometric ridges of the Art Deco towers and the iron will of the dreamers. But today, we immerse ourselves in the most recognizable feature of the Golden Gate, its soul-stirring color. In a world of gray steel and black iron, this bridge stands as a pillar of warmth. Today, we tell the story of International Orange and why this bridge wears the colors of a permanent sunset. Close your eyes. Take a slow, rhythmic breath. Imagine you are holding a palette of colors in your hand. Feel the weight of the wooden board and the cool, slick texture of the oils. In front of you is a canvas of gray fog and blue water. You are searching for the one color that will make this scene come alive. In the 1930s, the Navy had a very different vision for this bridge. They saw it as a tool, not a jewel. They wanted it painted in bold, jarring stripes of yellow and black, like a massive hornet stretching across the bay. They wanted it to scream for attention so that ships would not collide with it in the mist. The Army Air Corps wanted it painted in red and white stripes, like a towering candy cane. But Irving Morrow, our architect of light, looked at the steel as it arrived from the mills in Pennsylvania. The steel had been coated in a reddish lead primer to protect it from the salt air during its long journey. As you breathe slowly, visualize that raw steel. It wasn't the bright plastic orange of a modern traffic cone. It was deeper. It was earthy. It was the color of dried clay, of old bricks, and of the heart of the redwood tree. Morrow saw the way this accidental color glowed against the emerald hills of Marin. He saw how it stayed visible even when the white fog tried to erase the world. He realized that the bridge shouldn't fight the landscape, it should belong to it. Think about the name, International Orange. It sounds technical, but its effect is magical. It is a precise blend of pigments formulated to be deep enough to hold its ground against the vast blue of the Pacific, yet bright enough to catch the very last ray of light as the sun dips below the horizon. Imagine you are a painter standing on the very top of the South Tower. You are surrounded by a sea of orange. The wind is whispering through the rivets, and you are dipping your brush into a bucket of this warm, thick liquid. As you stroke the steel, the gray metal disappears, replaced by a color that feels like a hug. This color has a unique relationship with the light. In the early morning, when the sun is a pale lemon yellow, the bridge looks soft and delicate, like a coral reef rising from the sea. At noon, under the harsh white sun, the orange becomes vibrant and bold, a defiant shout of human achievement. But it is at twilight, the hour we are in now, that the color truly speaks. Visualize the sun beginning to set. The sky turns to shades of peach, violet, and gold. The international orange of the bridge begins to harmonize with the clouds. It absorbs the red light of the dying day and holds on to it. Long after the water has turned to black ink and the hills have become dark silhouettes, the bridge continues to glow. It looks like a ribbon of fire suspended in the dark. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the millions of gallons of paint that have touched this steel over the decades. It is a never-ending task. As soon as the painters reach one end, they must begin again at the other. Think of the rhythmic clink of the painters' buckets against the railings. Clink, swish, clink. This constant care is an act of love. The bridge is kept warm so that we may feel safe. Feel the warmth of this color in your mind. It is the color of a hearth, of a terracotta pot warming in the sun, of the autumn leaves falling gently to the earth. Let this orange light fill your thoughts, pushing away the cold grays and the sharp blacks of the day. You are resting in the glow of the Golden Gate. The sun has finally vanished, but the bridge remains in your mind, a steady, warm presence in the darkness. The International Orange is now a soft amber, guiding you into the quietest part of the night. The brushes are cleaned. The buckets are sealed. The color is set. Breathe in the warmth of the sunset. Breathe out the shadows of the night. You are painted in peace. Sleep as the orange fades to bronze. Sleep as the light holds the dark at bay. Sleep in the permanent sunset. Digging into the deep. We have stood in the warm glow of the international orange, and we have traced the elegant lines of the Art Deco towers. But today, we must leave the air behind. We must descend. To understand the true strength of the Golden Gate, we must go down into the dark, cold heart of the Pacific. We must visit the place where the bridge meets the earth, hundreds of feet beneath the churning tides. Today, we tell the story of the divers and the impossible foundations. Close your eyes. Take a deep, slow breath. Feel your body becoming heavy, as if you are wearing a suit of lead and brass. Imagine you are standing on a wooden barge in the year 1933. The wind is howling and the waves are crashing against the side of the boat, spraying cold salt water onto your face. But as you prepare to descend, the noise of the world begins to fade. Visualize the diving helmet being lowered over your head. Clink. The world is suddenly enclosed in a circle of thick glass. You hear the steady, rhythmic hiss of the air hose, the only tether to the world above. Hiss, thump, hiss, thump. It is the heartbeat of the deep. You step off the ladder, and the water swallows you. As you sink, the light begins to change. The bright, chaotic blue of the surface turns into a dark, murky emerald, then into a deep, silent indigo. The pressure of the ocean begins to wrap around you like a heavy, cold blanket. It is not an uncomfortable weight. It is a grounding one. It holds you still. It keeps you present in the moment. The currents here are legendary. Even deep below, you can feel the massive pull of the Pacific as it tries to rush into the San Francisco Bay. It is a slow, powerful force, moving like a river of liquid stone. Now, imagine the task at hand. The south tower of the bridge could not be built on the shore. It had to be built out in the open water, on a submerged ledge of rock. The workers had to build a fender, a massive, oval-shaped concrete wall that would protect the tower from wandering ships and the crushing force of the tides. Think of the divers working in the darkness. They couldn't see more than a few inches in front of their face. They worked by touch, their gloved hands feeling the rough texture of the cold granite and the smooth, wet surface of the concrete forms. Visualize the sound of the underwater world. It is a world of low-frequency vibrations. You hear the distant thud of a jackhammer working on the rock, a sound that travels through the water and vibrates in your chest. You hear the bubbles rising from your suit, escaping toward the surface like 1,000 tiny glass bells. Bloop, bloop, bloop. The divers had to blast away the rock to create a level floor for the bridge to stand on. Imagine the silent flashes of light in the deep green gloom as the charges were set. They were like underwater lightning, illuminating the kelp forests and the curious fish for a split second before the darkness returned. As you breathe slowly, think about the courage of these men. They stayed down there for hours, anchored to the bottom of the sea, while the world above went about its business. They were the silent architects, building the roots of a giant. The concrete was poured from the surface, falling through long tubes into the dark. Imagine the heavy gray liquid settling into the forms, turning from a fluid into a solid, unmoving rock. This is the anchor. It is thousands of tons of stability locked into the crust of the earth. Feel that stability in your own body now. You are like that concrete foundation. You are unmovable. The tides of your thoughts may pull you. The currents of your worries may try to shift you, but you are anchored deep. You are part of the bedrock. The pressure of the day is being equalized. Just as a diver must rise slowly to the surface, you are rising slowly toward the world of dreams. In your mind, look up through the dark water. High above, you can see the faint, shimmering glow of the sun through the waves. It looks like a flickering emerald star, but you don't need to reach it yet. You are content here, in the quiet, pressurized peace of the deep. The foundations are finished. The rock has been conquered. The South Tower now has a place to stand, rooted in the ancient silence of the Pacific. The air in your helmet is cool and steady. The hiss of the hose is becoming a lullaby. The darkness of the deep is not a void. It is a cradle. Breathe in the weight of the water. Breathe out the lightness of the air. You are anchored in the deep. Sleep as the silt settles on the rock. Sleep as the bubbles rise to the stars. Sleep in the silent foundations of the Golden Gate. The steel cables. We have risen from the cold, pressurized silence of the deep foundations. We have felt the solid bedrock beneath the Pacific. Now we look up. High above the water, between the two great Art Deco towers, there is a void. In the year 1935, that void began to be filled, not with solid beams, but with something far more delicate and rhythmic. Today, we tell the story of the steel cables, the great weaving of a metallic web that holds the bridge against the sky. Close your eyes. Take a deep, rhythmic breath, feeling your chest rise and fall like the gentle swell of the sea. Imagine you are standing on the very top of the North Tower. The wind here is a soft, constant whistle. Below you, the Golden Gate is a narrow ribbon of blue, and stretching away from you toward the distant South Tower are long, thin catwalks of rope and wood swaying gently in the air. To build the Golden Gate, they did not bring the cables on ships. The cables were too heavy, too immense to be lifted. Instead, they had to be spun in place, wire by individual wire. Visualize the spinning wheel. It is a large, heavy iron wheel that travels back and forth across the gap on a sturdy hauling rope. Imagine the sound it makes as it slides. Zzz, shh, zzz, shh. It is a mechanical hum that repeats over and over, all through the day and all through the night. The wheel carries a single thread of galvanized steel wire, no thicker than a pencil. It travels from the anchorage on one shore, up over the first tower, across the vast open sky, over the second tower, and down to the other shore. Then it turns around and comes back. Think of the repetition: 1 wire, 2 wires, 3. As you breathe slowly, imagine the thousands of miles of wire being woven together. Each main cable is not a solid rod, it is a bundle of 27,572 individual threads. Imagine the workers, the spinning gangs, standing on the swaying catwalks high above the water. They catch the wire as the wheel passes, laying it into place with rhythmic precision. They are like weavers on a giant loom. Their hands move in a steady, practiced dance, grabbing, pulling, tucking, reach, pull, set, reach, pull, set. The wires are bundled into strands. Visualize these strands, 61 of them, slowly forming a massive cylinder of steel. As more wires are added, the cable begins to sag under its own weight, forming that perfect, elegant curve that we know so well. It is a curve of pure physics, a catenary arc that mirrors the natural drape of a silk thread. Think of the tension. These wires are pulled tight, singing in the wind like the strings of a cosmic harp. If you were to put your ear against the cable, you would hear the vibration of the earth and the sea. It is a low-frequency hum, a deep that resonates in your bones. Now imagine the compacting. Once all the wires are spun, massive hydraulic jacks squeeze them together, turning the loose bundle into a solid, impenetrable pillar of steel. Then a smaller wire is wrapped around the outside, layer upon layer, sealing the core against the salt and the rain. Visualize the wrapping machine moving slowly along the cable. Spin, wrap, spin, wrap. It is like a cocoon being spun around a caterpillar. It is a protective layer, a shell of safety. As you drift closer to sleep, think about the strength of these cables. They are designed to support the weight of the entire bridge, thousands of tons of concrete and steel, while also swaying in the wind to prevent them from snapping. They are strong, yet they are flexible. They are solid, yet they are made of a million tiny parts. Feel your own body becoming like those cables. You have the strength to hold your world together, but right now you are allowing yourself to be flexible. You are swaying with the rhythm of the night. You are part of a vast, interconnected web of peace. The spinning wheels have finally stopped. The last wire has been laid. The catwalks are quiet. High above the dark harbor, the two great cables hang in the moonlight, shimmering like silver threads. They are the bridge's muscles, resting now in the cold air. Listen to the silence of the sky. The only sound is the distant, soft sigh of the wind passing through the wires. Sss, sss, sss. It is the sound of the bridge breathing. Breathe in the strength of the steel. Breathe out the tension of the day. You are suspended in a web of dreams. Sleep as the wires hold the weight. Sleep as the arc curves toward the stars. Sleep in the rhythmic boding of the Golden Gate.
The net that saved lives. We have climbed the heights of the Art Deco towers, where the air is thin and the world below looks like a miniature map. We have watched the silver wires weave their rhythmic web across the sky, anchoring the north to the south. But as the bridge grew, so did the danger. In the 1930s, the rule of thumb for bridge building was grim. For every $1 million spent, one worker was expected to lose their life. It was a cold mathematical trade, steel for souls. But today, we tell a story of defiance. We tell the story of a man who looked at the clouds and decided that no one should have to die for a dream. Today, we explore the story of the great safety net, the $160,000 miracle that turned the terrifying heights of the Golden Gate into a place of sanctuary. Close your eyes. Take a deep, comforting breath. Feel the mattress beneath you, supporting every inch of your spine, your shoulders, and your limbs. You are safe. You are held. You are protected. Imagine you are standing on a narrow steel girder in the year 1936. You are 700 feet above the churning emerald green waters of the Pacific. The wind is a constant companion here, sometimes a whisper, sometimes a roar, tugging at your heavy canvas jacket. Below you, the ships in the harbor look like tiny toys, and the white foam of the waves seems like static on a screen. In any other place, in any other time, this height would bring a cold shiver of fear.
But here, as you look down past your boots, you see something remarkable. Stretching out from the bridge, 10 feet wider than the roadway on either side, is a vast swaying sea of manila hemp. It is a giant net woven into a tight diamond grid. It looks like a carpet made of golden straw suspended in the air. This is the circus net, the greatest safety measure ever conceived in the history of engineering. Visualize the texture of that net. It is made of thick, rough ropes, hand-woven to be both incredibly strong and incredibly flexible. It is not rigid like the steel above it. It is a living, breathing thing. It moves with the wind. It sways with the rhythm of the bridge. As you breathe slowly, imagine the feeling of security this net provided. Before it was installed, the high Ironman moved with a stiff, guarded caution. But once the net was stretched beneath them, their movements changed. They became like dancers. They knew that if they slipped, if a rivet was too hot to handle, or if a gust of wind caught them off guard, the world would not end. Think of the men who became members of a very exclusive club, the Halfway to Hell Club. This was the name given to the 19 men whose lives were caught by those hemp ropes. Imagine one of those moments now, but see it through the lens of a dream. Visualize a worker reaching for a tool. A sudden stray gust of wind from the Pacific pushes against his chest. His foot loses its purchase on the smooth orange steel. For a fraction of a second, there is a rush of cool air. There is the feeling of weightlessness, the stomach-dropping sensation of falling through the sky. But then, there is no impact. There is only a soft, elastic embrace. Thud. Shh. The net catches him. It does not feel like hitting a floor. It feels like falling into a giant, suspended hammock. The hemp ropes stretch and groan, absorbing the energy of the fall. The net sways deep, then slowly bounces back, cradling the worker like a child in a massive woven palm. Imagine lying there for a moment, deep in the belly of the net. You are suspended between the heavens and the sea. Above you, the orange towers reach for the stars. Below you, the water flows on, but it cannot touch you. You are safe in the halfway to hell cradle. The worker breathes in the scent of the hemp, earthy, salty, and dry. He looks at the diamond-shaped patches of sky through the mesh. He is alive. He is resting. After a few minutes, he climbs out, his heart slowing down, a smile on his face. He goes back to work, not with fear, but with a deeper appreciation for the net that holds him. Feel that sense of being caught in your own life tonight. Your day may have felt like a high-wire act. You may have felt the wind of worry tugging at you, or the fear of falling behind. But as you lie here now, let the night be your safety net. Your bed is the hemp grid. The silence of the room is the vast protective space of the harbor. Whatever thoughts you have dropped today, whatever mistakes you feel you have made, let them fall. Let them tumble away into the dark. They will be caught. They will be held. They will not hurt you. Visualize the net at night when the workers have gone home. The bridge is empty and the orange steel has turned to a deep bronze. The moon rises over the bay, casting a silver light onto the safety net. The shadows of the diamond grid dance on the surface of the water far below. The net sways in the midnight breeze, a silent, faithful guardian. It is a symbol of human compassion, a reminder that we can build great things without losing our humanity. Listen to the sound of the net. It doesn't make a loud noise. It makes a soft, rhythmic creak, creak, as the ropes rub against each other. It is the sound of a rocking chair. It is the sound of a lullaby. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine yourself shrinking down until you're resting right in the center of one of those hemp diamonds. You are weightless. The air passes around you, but you are warm. The bridge is a protective roof far above. The sea is a distant memory. The circus net is still there in the history of the bridge, a legacy of safety. And in this moment, you are just as safe. There is no ground to hit. There is only the support of the night. There is only the infinite cradle of sleep. The high iron men are sleeping now. The dreamer Joseph Strauss is at rest. The net continues to sway, catching the shadows of the stars. Breathe in the feeling of total protection. Breathe out the tension of the fall. You are held. You are safe. You are home. Sleep as the hemp ropes stretch. Sleep as the wind cradles the bay. Sleep in the safety of the Golden Gate.
The roar of the wind. We have rested in the soft hempen cradle of the safety net, feeling the security of being held above the abyss. But as we move further into the life of the Golden Gate, we must listen. A bridge is not a silent object. It is a massive, metallic instrument played by the restless hands of the Pacific gales. Today, we tell the story of the wind, the invisible force that gives the bridge its voice, its movement, and its haunting musical soul. Close your eyes. Take a slow, deep breath, and as you exhale, imagine the sound of a soft whoosh leaving your lips. You are standing in the center of the span, halfway between the two great towers. The city of San Francisco is a distant glow to your left. The dark, wild hills of Marin are to your right. But here, in the middle of the strait, you are in the domain of the air. In the year 1937, shortly after the bridge was completed, people noticed something strange. On days when the wind blew hard from the west, the bridge began to sing. It wasn't a human song, but a deep, vibrating hum that seemed to come from the very marrow of the steel. Visualize the wind now. It starts far out in the Pacific, thousands of miles away. It gathers strength as it travels over the flat, open water, rushing toward the narrow gap of the Golden Gate. When it hits the bridge, it doesn't just stop. It has to squeeze through the cables, the railings, and the honeycomb of the steel girders. As you breathe slowly, imagine the wind passing through the massive suspension cables. These cables are pulled under millions of pounds of tension. When the wind strikes them, they vibrate like the strings of a cosmic harp. Listen to that sound in your mind. It is a low-frequency moan, a deep, resonant hum that you can feel in the soles of your feet. It is the sound of the earth breathing through the lungs of the bridge. It is a sound that has no beginning and no end. It is the music of physics. Think of the singing railings. In recent years, new slats were added to the bridge to help it withstand higher winds. These slats have a specific shape that when the wind hits them at a certain angle, creates a high-pitched, haunting whistle. Imagine you are walking along the sidewalk in a thick gray mist. You cannot see the towers, and you cannot see the water. You are walking through a cloud. And out of that cloud comes a chorus of 1,000 flutes. It is a ghostly, ethereal sound, a long, sustained note that rises and falls with the gusts.
Wee-oh, wee-oh. It sounds like the bridge is talking to the fog. It is a lonely sound, but it is also deeply peaceful. It reminds you that the bridge is alive. It is not a cold, dead thing. It reacts to the world around it. It yields to the wind. It bows to the storm. As you drift closer to sleep, visualize the sway. The Golden Gate Bridge was designed to be flexible. If it were rigid, the wind would snap it. But instead, the bridge moves. In a strong gale, the center of the span can swing up to 27 feet from side to side. Imagine lying down on the roadway, looking up at the sky. You feel a slow, rhythmic motion, a gentle, heavy rocking, like a massive cradle being pushed by an invisible hand. Sway, back, sway, back. It is a movement so slow and so powerful that it bypasses your mind and speaks directly to your body. It is the rhythm of a mother rocking a child. It is the rhythm of the tides. The wind is not your enemy here. It is a blanket of sound that muffles the noise of the world. Think of the white noise of the wind as it rushes past your ears. It wipes away the sharp edges of your thoughts. It blurs the memories of the day. Shh, shh. The wind carries the scent of the deep ocean, the smell of cold salt, wet kelp, and ancient mysteries. It carries the sound of distant foghorns, those low, mournful bellows that echo off the cliffs. Boom, ah, boom, ah. Now, imagine the wind dying down. The great harp strings of the cables stop their vibrating. The whistling railings grow quiet. The roar becomes a murmur, and the murmur becomes a whisper. You are resting in the silence that follows the song. Your own breathing has become part of the bridge's wind. As you inhale, the air rushes in like a cool breeze from the Pacific. As you exhale, it flows out like the wind receding into the bay. You are perfectly synchronized with the atmosphere of the gate. The towers are silent sentinels in the dark. The orange steel is cold and still. The wind has moved on, traveling inland to the valleys and the mountains, leaving you in a vacuum of perfect peace. The roar of the wind has finished its performance for the night. The instrument is quiet. The musician has departed. Breathe in the vastness of the air. Breathe out the stillness of the stone. You are the silence after the song. Sleep as the vibrations fade. Sleep as the sway becomes a heartbeat. Sleep in the hollow voice of the Golden Gate.
The day it opened. We have listened to the haunting, metallic song of the wind in the cables, and we have felt the bridge sway like a massive cradle in the Pacific gales. For years, the Golden Gate was a place of noise, of jackhammers, of clanging steel, and of the shouts of workmen. But today, the year is 1937. The nets have been taken down. The paint is dry. The giant is ready. Today, we tell the story of the day the bridge opened, not to cars or engines, but to the gentle, rhythmic pulse of human footsteps. Today, we join the 18,000 people who walked across the impossible strait for the very first time. Close your eyes. Take a deep, refreshing breath. Imagine the air has lost its winter chill and is now filled with the soft, golden warmth of a California spring morning. You are standing at the toll plaza on the San Francisco side. It is May 27th, 1937. It is Pedestrian Day. Visualize the scene. There are no cars today.
The wide orange roadway is an empty canyon of steel waiting for the people. You can hear the distant sound of a brass band playing a slow, upbeat march, but the music is softened by the vastness of the bay. At 6 a.m., the gates are opened. Imagine being part of that first wave of people. There is no rush. There is no hurry. This is a day for wandering. You step onto the pavement, and for the first time, you feel the bridge beneath your feet. It feels solid. It feels eternal. Step, step, step. As you breathe slowly, imagine the sensation of walking toward the center of the span. The towers rise up on either side of you like the walls of a great cathedral. They are so tall that you have to tilt your head back to see the top, where the Art Deco ridges catch the morning sun. Up there, the steel is a brilliant, glowing orange, standing out against a sky of perfect, cloudless blue. Think of the sounds of this day. It is not the roar of traffic, but the white noise of thousands of people talking quietly, laughing, and whistling. You hear the rhythmic clack-clack of leather shoes on the asphalt. You hear the fluttering of flags in the breeze. People didn't just walk that day. They experienced the bridge. Some people stopped to have picnics on the sidewalk. Some sat on the edge of the curb, dangling their feet over the side, looking down 200 feet at the swirling green water. Visualize the halfway point. You are now a mile away from the shore. You are suspended in the middle of the sky. To your left, the city of San Francisco looks like a cluster of white jewels. To your right, the vast Pacific Ocean stretches out forever, its horizon a sharp, clean line where the blue of the water meets the blue of the air. You stop. You lean against the railing. The steel is cool under your hands. You look down. A large ocean liner, the Lurline, is passing directly beneath the bridge. From this height, the massive ship looks like a tiny paper boat. You see the white wake of the ship cutting through the dark water. You hear the low, deep rumble of its engines, a vibration that travels up through the air and into the bridge. It is a slow, powerful pulse. Thrum, thrum, thrum. Now, imagine the vibratory joy of the crowd. As 18,000 people walk in unison, the bridge begins to feel their presence. It doesn't shake, it breathes. It hums with the energy of thousands of lives. As you drift closer to sleep, think about the faces in the crowd. You see old men who remembered when the strait was empty. You see children who would grow up never knowing a world without the bridge. You see Joseph Strauss, the dreamer, walking quietly among the people. He is tired, but his eyes are peaceful. He has seen his vision become a reality. He has built a path for everyone to walk upon. The sun begins to move across the sky, and the shadows of the cables stretch across the roadway like the strings of a giant harp. The air begins to cool as the afternoon mist starts to creep in from the ocean. The people begin to turn back toward the shore. Their footsteps are slower now, heavy with contentment of a long, beautiful walk. The excitement of the morning has turned into the calm of the evening. Imagine the bridge as the crowds thin out. One by one, the voices fade away. The music of the band stops. The gates are prepared for the next day when the cars will arrive and the world will speed up. But for this one golden day, the bridge belonged to the walkers. It belonged to the dreamers. It belonged to the silence. Feel that same slow, rhythmic walking in your own mind. You are walking away from the noise of your day. You are walking toward the quiet shore of sleep. Each footstep is a footstep on a bridge of dreams. Step, breathe, step, breathe. The roadway of your mind is now empty and vast. The orange towers are darkening into silhouettes. The bay below is a mirror for the first stars of the evening. You have reached the end of the bridge. You have reached the end of the day. You are safe on the other side. The pedestrian day is over. The gates are closed. The bridge is at rest, waiting for the morning. Breathe in the joy of the journey. Breathe out the need to arrive. You are already where you need to be. Sleep as the footsteps fade. Sleep as the towers touch the stars. Sleep in the opening day of the Golden Gate.
The Golden Gate Fog. We have walked the sun-drenched roadway of the bridge's opening day, feeling the vibration of thousands of footsteps and the warmth of a new beginning. But today, the sun has retreated. Today, the vibrant international orange of the steel is beginning to soften, to blur, and eventually to disappear. Today, we welcome the bridge's most constant and mysterious companion. Today, we enter the world of the Golden Gate Fog. Close your eyes. Take a slow, cool breath as if you were inhaling the mist itself. Imagine you are standing on the overlook at Vista Point. Below you, the San Francisco Bay was clear just moments ago. But now, looking out toward the Pacific, you see it coming. It is a massive, silent wall of white, a rolling, tumbling glacier of air that is moving slowly toward the gate. This is the advection fog. It is born from the meeting of two worlds, the cold, deep currents of the ocean and the warm, golden air of the California coast. When they touch, the moisture in the air turns into tiny, microscopic droplets of water, billions of them, suspended in the light. Visualize the fog as it reaches the bridge. It doesn't move fast. It flows like silk. It pours over the hills of Marin like a slow-motion waterfall of milk. It is soft. It is heavy. It is silent. As you breathe slowly, imagine the fog wrapping itself around the towers of the bridge. First, the base of the tower disappears. The solid granite and the heavy steel are swallowed by the whiteness. Then the fog begins to climb. It moves up the Art Deco ridges, filling the gaps and smoothing the sharp edges. You look up, and the tower seems to have no top. It simply rises into the white void, a giant ladder leading to a hidden world in the clouds. Now imagine you are walking onto the bridge, straight into the heart of the mist. As you move forward, the world behind you vanishes. The city is gone. The hills are gone. Even the cables just 10 feet in front of you are becoming ghostly shadows. You are in a sanctuary of white. The fog does something magical to sound. It is a natural acoustic blanket. Think of the sounds of the world being muffled as if someone has placed a heavy velvet curtain over everything. The distant hum of the city becomes a faint, rhythmic pulse. The cry of a seagull is softened, turning into a lonely, echoing memory. In this white world, the only thing that remains is the voice of the fog. Listen. From somewhere deep in the mist, you hear the low, mournful groan of a foghorn. Boom. Ah. It is a deep baritone note that vibrates in the center of your chest. It is a sound designed to be heard when the eyes are useless. It is a beacon of sound, telling the ships that the bridge is still there, even if they cannot see it. Boom. The forgotten color. We have traveled through the white sanctuary of the fog, feeling the cool, damp breath of the Pacific against our skin.
We have heard the rhythmic, mournful song of the foghorn as it guides the unseen ships through the void. But as the sun begins to rise, burning through the mist and revealing the grand structure of the Golden Gate, we must look closer. We must look past the obvious beauty and see the bridge as it truly is, a living, breathing miracle of chemistry. Today, we delve into the story of the colors that almost were, the secret struggle against the salt, and the alchemy of time that turned a simple primer into a global icon. Today, we explore the forgotten color. Close your eyes. Take a long, slow, and purposeful breath. Inhale the cool, imagined air of the 1930s. Exhale the noise and the rush of the modern world. Imagine you are walking into a quiet, sunlit room. On a large oak table, there are several heavy glass jars. Each jar contains a different pigment, a different possibility for the future of the world's most famous bridge. The first jar is filled with a thick, obsidian liquid. This is the black. In the early days of engineering, bridges were seen as industrial machines, cold, functional, and invisible. Most of the world's great steel bridges were painted black to hide the soot and the dirt of the coal-burning ships. Imagine the Golden Gate as a giant black shadow stretching across the water. It would have looked like a silhouette, a dark wall blocking the sunset. It would have been heavy. It would have been somber. It would have felt like a mourning shroud for the sea. Take a moment to visualize that black bridge. Feel the weight of it. It doesn't glow, it absorbs the light. It feels cold to the touch. But as you breathe slowly, that image begins to fade, replaced by the second jar. The second jar is filled with a shimmering metallic silver. This was the color of the future. In the Art Deco era, aluminum and silver were symbols of speed and technology. Imagine the bridge as a gleaming needle of light, reflecting the sun so intensely that it looks like it's made of liquid mercury. In the morning, it would be a blinding white. In the evening, it would turn a cold steel blue. It would have been a bridge of mirrors, a bridge that tried to disappear into the sky. But silver is a distant color. It has no heart. It has no heart. Now, look at the third jar. It is a jarring, bright yellow, the color of a bumblebee. The United States Navy fought hard for this color. They didn't care about beauty. They cared about safety. They wanted the bridge to be painted in alternating stripes of black and yellow, a giant warning sign to every pilot and sailor. Imagine the Golden Gate as a giant hornet, its vibrant stripes clashing with the soft greens of the hills and the deep blues of the water. It would have been a bridge of noise, a bridge that screamed for attention. But then we come to the forgotten color. When the steel for the bridge arrived in San Francisco, it had traveled thousands of miles on ships from the mills of Pennsylvania. To protect the raw metal from the corrosive salt air of the long journey, the workers had coated every beam, every rivet, and every plate in a thick, lead-based primer. This primer was not meant to be the final color. It was merely a base coat, a temporary shield. But as the bridge began to rise out of the water, something happened. The architect, Irving Morrow, stood on the cliffs and watched the sun hit that primer. It wasn't a bright, artificial red. It was a deep, earthy orange. It was the color of dried clay from the mountains. It was the color of the heartwood of a 1,000-year-old redwood tree. It was a color that didn't just stand against nature. It felt like it was born from it. As you drift closer to sleep, think about the science of survival. The Golden Gate Bridge is a giant metallic organism living in a sea of salt. The Pacific Ocean is a beautiful but hungry beast. Every wave that crashes against the piers, every gust of fog that rolls over the towers carries millions of tiny salt crystals. Salt is a quiet destroyer. It seeks out the smallest scratch in the paint. It finds its way into the microscopic gaps between the steel plates. Once inside, it begins to eat. It turns the strong, rigid iron into soft, crumbling rust. This is why the bridge is never finished being painted. It is a perpetual cycle of care. Imagine the guardians of the color, the bridge painters who spend their entire lives suspended in the sky. Visualize a painter named Jack. He is sitting on a small wooden plank hanging from a rope 500 feet above the water. In his hand, he holds a heavy steel scraper. Scritch, scritch, scritch. The sound is rhythmic and steady. He is scraping away the old, weathered skin of the bridge, the paint that has been baked by the sun and battered by the wind until it has become thin and brittle. Underneath the old paint, he finds the raw steel. It is silver and cold. He reaches for his brush, dipping it in a bucket of international orange. This paint is thick, heavy, and smells of linseed oil and minerals. As he applies it, the orange flows over the steel like a warm, protective liquid. It fills the pores, it seals the cracks. It becomes a new skin. Think of the paint as a blanket that is always being woven, always being repaired. The bridge is never naked. It is always dressed in its orange robes, a permanent shield against the elements. Now imagine the green that almost was. Before the orange was finalized, there was a plan to paint the bridge a deep forest green to match the trees of the Marin headlands. Imagine the bridge as a silent emerald ghost hidden against the hills. It would have been a secret bridge, a quiet bridge that didn't want to be found. But green is a color that recedes. It would have been lost in the fog. It would have lacked the courage of the orange. Morrow chose the orange because it was a dialogue. He wanted the bridge to speak to the sunset. In your mind, let the sunset begin. The sky turns to shades of violet and peach. The international orange of the bridge begins to absorb that light. It doesn't just reflect it, it holds on to it. Long after the sun has dropped below the horizon, the bridge continues to glow with a soft inner warmth. It looks like a ribbon of cooling lava suspended over the dark ink of the bay. The forgotten colors, the black, the silver, the green, remain in their jars, locked away in the archives of history. They are the paths not taken, but the orange remains. It is the color of persistence. It is the color of a dream that refused to be hidden. Feel your own body now. You are like the bridge. You are protected. Your room is your sanctuary. Your blankets are your shield. The salt of the day's worries, the stresses, the fears, the noise cannot get through your defenses. You are sealed in a layer of perfect peace. The scrapers have been put away for the night. The painters have climbed down their long ladders and gone home to their families. The buckets are sealed and the brushes are soaking in jars of turpentine. The bridge stands alone in the dark, a massive orange sentinel guarding the entrance to the bay. The color is no longer vibrant in the moonlight. It has shifted into a deep, ancient bronze. It looks like it has been there since the beginning of time, and it will be there until the very end. Listen to the silence of the steel. The only sound is the slow, rhythmic expansion and contraction of the metal as it cools in the night air. Tick, tick, tick. The bridge is breathing. It is resting. Breathe in the endurance of the bridge. Breathe out the fleeting thoughts of the day. You are strong. You are protected. You are at peace. The forgotten color is not forgotten by the bridge. It wears it with pride. And as you fall into a deep, dreamless sleep, you carry that warmth with you. Sleep as the paint cures in the wind. Sleep as the salt falls back to the ocean floor. Sleep in the enduring golden shadow of the gate.
The torch and the light. We have explored the alchemy of colors, the secret struggle against the salt, and the enduring strength of the orange shield that guards the steel against the Pacific. But now, the sun has long since vanished behind the curve of the earth. The vibrant oranges of the day have faded into a deep, silent bronze, and then into a velvet black. The world of San Francisco has gone to rest, and the hills of Marin are but dark shadows against a star-flecked sky. Yet, the Golden Gate does not disappear. As the darkness deepens, the bridge begins to glow with a different kind of life. Today, we tell the story of the lights, the beacons, the floodlights, and the golden torches that guide the wanderers of the sea and sky. Today, we explore the torch and the light. Close your eyes. Take a long, slow breath, feeling the cool night air enter your lungs like a quiet stream. Imagine you are sitting in a small wooden rowboat, drifting silently in the center of the bay. The water is as dark as ink, and the only sound is the rhythmic slap-slap of the waves against the side of your boat. You look up, and there, suspended between the stars and the sea, is the Golden Gate. It is no longer a massive industrial machine. In the dark, it looks like a constellation of fallen stars pinned against the velvet curtain of the night. When the bridge was first built, the question of lighting was a matter of intense debate. Irving Morrow, our architect of light and shadow, knew that how the bridge looked at night was just as important as how it looked in the sun. He didn't want the bridge to be garish. He didn't want it to look like a circus or a theater. He wanted the light to be architectural, to emphasize the strength of the steel while maintaining the mystery of the night. As you breathe slowly, imagine the first lamps being installed. In 1937, there were no LEDs, no high-tech lasers. There were only low-pressure sodium vapor lamps. These lamps didn't give off a cold white light. They gave off a warm amber glow, a color that looked like liquid gold. Visualize those lamps now. They line the roadway, spaced at regular intervals like a line of silent sentinels. Each lamp is encased in a heavy Art Deco fixture. When they flicker to life at dusk, they don't pierce the darkness. They bathe the asphalt in a soft, honey-colored light. This light catches the international orange of the railings and turns it into a warm, glowing bronze. It feels like a fireplace in the middle of the ocean. Think of the aviation beacons at the very top of the towers. Imagine you were soaring upward, leaving the water behind, climbing higher and higher until you reach the summit of the South Tower, 746 feet in the air. Here, in the biting cold wind, sits a massive red light. It is a rotating beacon. Flash, pause, flash, pause. It is a rhythmic, pulsating heart. Its job is to speak to the pilots of the world, telling them exactly where the Earth ends and the structure begins. The red light reflects off the steel ridges of the tower, casting long crimson shadows into the fog. It is a steady pulse that says, "I am here. You are safe. Keep your distance." Now, look down from the heights. At the base of each tower, hidden from the view of the drivers, are the massive floodlights.
Morrow's greatest stroke of genius was indirect lighting. He wanted the towers to be lit from the bottom up, so that the light would gradually fade as it reached the top. Visualize the light as it leaves the flood lamps. It hits the base of the tower with great intensity, making the orange steel look almost white. But as the light travels upward, it loses its strength. It crawls up the Art Deco ridges, illuminating the vertical lines, until it slowly dissolves into the darkness of the sky. This makes the towers look like they are floating, like they are pillars of fire rising out of the black water with no visible top. Think of the navigation lights for the ships. If you are a captain of a massive tanker coming in from the deep Pacific, the lights of the Golden Gate are your first welcome home. In the center of the span, hanging directly over the middle of the shipping channel, is a single green light. Imagine that green light. It is small, but it is brilliant. It marks the gate. To either side of it are red lights marking the piers. For a sailor who's been at sea for weeks, seeing that green light is a moment of profound peace. It means the journey is almost over. It means the harbor is near. It means the danger of the open ocean has passed. As you drift closer to sleep, think about the workers who maintain these lights. Imagine a technician climbing the narrow iron ladder inside the tower in the middle of the night. It is quiet inside the steel. Every footstep echoes. Clang, clang, clang. He reaches the top, opens a small hatch, and steps out into the night. He is closer to the stars than he is to the earth. He carries a fresh bulb, a small glass sun, to replace the one that has flickered out. The maintenance of the light is an act of faith. It is a promise to the world that even in the darkest hour, there will be a path. Feel the light within your own mind now. Just as the bridge has its beacons, your mind has its own steady, quiet light. It is a light that doesn't need to be bright. It is a light that simply exists to remind you that you are safe. The city of San Francisco is now completely silent. The lights in the houses have gone out. The street lights in the park are dim, but the Golden Gate remains illuminated. The amber glow of the roadway, the crimson pulse of the beacon, and the golden wash of the floodlights are all working together. They are the torch that Joseph Strauss and Irving Morrow handed down to us. Visualize the fog rolling in again. The lights don't disappear in the fog, they transform. The amber lamps create spheres of golden mist. The red beacon creates a rhythmic, glowing cloud. The bridge becomes a dream of light, a floating palace made of luminescence and vapor. You are now drifting away from the bridge. Your rowboat is moving slowly into the quietest part of the bay. The lights are becoming smaller, more distant. They look like a string of amber pearls resting on a cushion of black velvet. The torch is still burning, but you no longer need to watch it. You can feel its warmth from a distance. You can trust that it will be there when the morning comes. The technician has finished his work and descended the ladder. The hatch is closed. The red beacon continues its steady rotation. Flash, pause, flash, pause. It is the rhythm of your own breathing. It is the rhythm of the deep, dark sea. Breathe in the golden light. Breathe out the shadows of the world. You are guided by the beacons of the past. Sleep as the amber lamps glow. Sleep as the red heart beats in the sky. Sleep in the midnight light of the Golden Gate.
The bridge that breathes. We have watched the midnight beacons flicker to life,
casting their amber and crimson glow across the dark, silent waters of the bay. We have felt the security of the lights that guide the wanderers home. But now, as we stand in the deep stillness of the early morning hours, we must look closer at the steel itself. A bridge of this magnitude is not a frozen, rigid object. It is not a dead skeleton of iron. To survive the heat of the sun and the chill of the fog, it must be flexible. It must move. It must, in its own metallic way, breathe. Today, we tell the story of the bridge that breathes. Close your eyes. Take a deep, slow breath in. Hold it for a moment and let it out with a quiet sigh. As you lie there, feel the natural expansion and contraction of your own chest. Your body is moving in a slow, eternal rhythm. Now, imagine the Golden Gate Bridge doing the exact same thing. Visualize the massive towers rising 700 feet into the air. When the sun comes up and the morning light hits the international orange steel, the molecules within the metal begin to wake up. They begin to move faster. As the steel warms, it expands. The towers actually grow taller in the heat of the day, reaching a few inches closer to the heavens. Think about the science of this movement. If the bridge were perfectly rigid, the force of the sun's heat would cause the steel to buckle and snap. But the engineers, the silent poets of physics, built breathing room into the design. Imagine the expansion joints. These are the places where the bridge is divided, held together by massive interlocking steel teeth. As the sun warms the roadway, these teeth slide slowly together, closing the gaps as the bridge grows. When the sun sets and the cool Pacific fog rolls in, the metal begins to contract. The teeth slide slowly apart, creating space as the bridge shrinks back into itself. Slide and release. Slide and release. As you breathe slowly, imagine the bridge at noon. The sun is at its peak. The steel is warm to the touch, humming with the energy of the light. The bridge is at its fullest extent. It feels tight, strong, and full of life. It is like a person taking a deep, revitalizing breath of mountain air. Now, imagine the transition to evening. The sun dips below the horizon, and the international orange turns to a deep bronze. The temperature drops. You can almost hear the bridge reacting to the cold. There are tiny, metallic sounds, faint clinks and ticks as the thousands of tons of steel begin to settle. This is the bridge exhaling. Think of the massive suspension cables. They too are part of this breathing. In the heat, they stretch and sag slightly, lowering the roadway toward the water. In the cold, they tighten and lift the bridge higher, pulling the entire structure upward toward the stars. The bridge is constantly rising and falling, a slow-motion dance with the temperature of the world. Visualize yourself lying on the very center of the span at 3 o'clock in the morning. The world is at its coldest. The fog is thick and heavy, pressing against the steel. You feel the bridge at its most compact. It feels solid, dense, and incredibly stable. The breath has been fully released, and the bridge is resting in its most natural state. Feel that same settling in your own body. Just as the bridge contracts in the cool night air, let your muscles relax and settle into the mattress. Release the tension of the day. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands go limp. You are contracting away from the busyness of the day, pulling back into the core of your own peace. The movement of the bridge is so slow that no human eye can see it. You could stand on the sidewalk for an hour and never notice the expansion joints moving, but it is happening. It is a constant, quiet adjustment to the environment. It is the bridge's way of saying, "I can endure." It doesn't fight the change, it flows with it. Imagine the wind again. We know the wind makes the bridge sing, but it also makes it move. The bridge can sway up to 27 feet from side to side. Think of this as the bridge's pulse, a slow lateral heartbeat that keeps it from breaking in the storm. Sway and center. Sway and center. You are part of this rhythm now. Your breath is the expansion. Your rest is the contraction. You are as flexible as the steel and as strong as the towers. You are capable of handling the heat of the day and the cold of the night because you too know how to breathe. The expansion joints are quiet now, tucked away in the shadows of the roadway. The cables are still, held in the icy grip of the midnight fog. The towers are standing at their nighttime height, silent and unmoving in the dark. The bridge has finished its long, slow exhale. It is now in a state of perfect equilibrium. It is neither too tight nor too loose. It is simply there, existing in the silence. Visualize the entire structure from a distance, a mile of steel, breathing with the tides, breathing with the sun, breathing with the wind. It is a living monument to patience. Breathe in the flexibility of the steel. Breathe out the rigidity of the mind. You are moving in harmony with the night. Sleep as the metal cools. Sleep as the joints find their rest. Sleep in the living breath of the Golden Gate Bridge.
The 50th anniversary. We have felt the bridge breathe in the cool midnight air, watching its steel expand and contract in a slow-motion dance with the sun and the fog. We have seen it as a living organism. But today, we travel to a specific moment in time, a day when the bridge was tested not by the wind or the tides, but by the overwhelming love of the people it serves. Today, the year is 1987. It is May 24th, the 50th anniversary of the Golden Gate. Today, we tell the story of the day the bridge flattened under the weight of 1,000,000 souls. Close your eyes. Take a deep, grounding breath. Feel the solid weight of your body as you sink deeper into your bed. Imagine you are standing on the San Francisco shoreline at the break of dawn. The air is crisp, filled with the excitement of a city that has come to celebrate its greatest icon. In 1937, 18,000 people walked the bridge on Pedestrian Day. But today, 50 years later, the world has grown. The bridge has become a symbol of the entire human spirit. Visualize the crowds. They are coming from every direction. People are walking from the city streets, arriving in buses and pouring out of the hills. By 6 a.m., there are not thousands, but hundreds of thousands. They are all here for one reason: to walk the span together, just as their ancestors did 5 decades before. As you breathe slowly, imagine the moment the gates are opened. The plan was for a controlled walk, but the crowd is too vast. Like a slow-moving river of humanity, 300,000 people flow onto the bridge at once. Another 500,000 are waiting at the edges. The roadway, which usually hums with the sound of tires, is now completely buried under a carpet of people. From the air, the bridge looks like a giant orange ribbon covered in colorful moving jewels. Now, think about the physics of this moment. We know that the bridge is flexible. We know it moves with the wind. But on this morning,
The bridge is carrying a load it was never truly expected to bear. 300,000 people weigh roughly 40 million pounds. As you drift closer to sleep, visualize what happened to the bridge's famous curve. The roadway of the Golden Gate is naturally arched. It bows upward in the middle. But as the weight of the crowd increases, as people pack shoulder to shoulder from one tower to the other, the bridge begins to respond. The massive suspension cables, those silver threads we saw being spun wire by wire, begin to stretch. They groan under the immense tension. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the great arch of the bridge begins to flatten. Imagine standing in the very center of the span. You are surrounded by a sea of smiling faces, children on shoulders, and old men in hats. You look down at your feet. The road beneath you is no longer sloping upward. It is level. In fact, under the weight of 300,000 people, the center of the bridge has dropped nearly 7 feet toward the water. Listen to the sound of the bridge in this moment. It is not a roar, it is a deep, metallic sigh. The steel is working, the rivets are holding. The breathing room we talked about is being used to its very limit. The bridge is leaning into the weight, supporting the city that loves it. Think about the stillness of that crowd. Because they were packed so tightly, people couldn't really move. They were frozen in a moment of communal history. For several hours, the bridge became a floating island of humanity. Imagine the view from the top of the towers. The engineers are watching nervously. They see the cables tightening. They see the expansion joints closing, but the bridge remains steady. It is a testament to the genius of Joseph Strauss and the men who built it 50 years ago. They built it to be stronger than any storm. They built it to hold the weight of a dream. As the morning passes, the crowd begins to slowly, carefully disperse. The weight is lifted, person by person, footstep by footstep. Visualize the bridge as the pressure is released. Like a giant bow being unstrung, the roadway begins to rise. The cables contract. The arch slowly returns to its elegant upward curve. By the time the sun sets over the Pacific, the bridge is back to its natural shape, as if the weight of 1,000,000 people had been nothing more than a passing cloud. Feel that same release in your own body now. Whatever weight you have been carrying today, the weight of your responsibilities, the weight of your thoughts, the 1,000,000 people of your worries, imagine them walking off the bridge of your mind. One by one, they are leaving. The pressure is lifting. Your heart is rising. Your spirit is returning to its natural, peaceful curve. You are resilient, just like the bridge. You have been tested, and you have held firm. And now, it is time to return to the quiet. The 50th anniversary is over. The fireworks have long since faded into the dark. The echo of the cheers has been swallowed by the sound of the waves. The bridge is once again a silent path between two shores, standing tall in the moonlight. It has seen 50 years of history, and it will see 50 more. It stands as a reminder that we can carry great weight if we are built with a strong heart and a flexible spirit. Imagine the bridge tonight. It is empty now. No crowds, no cars, just the orange steel and the silver cables, resting in the cool night air. The towers are dark, the beacons are flashing, and the bridge is finally alone with the sea. Breathe in the resilience of the history. Breathe out the heavy burdens of the day. You are light. You are lifted. You are free. Sleep as the roadway rises. Sleep as the weight is forgotten. Sleep in the enduring memory of the Golden Gate.
The Eternal Sentinel. We have traveled through the dreams of the engineers and the cold, dark depths of the Pacific floor.
We have felt the rhythmic weaving of the silver cables and the warm, protective embrace of the international orange. We have stood in the white sanctuary of the fog and felt the bridge flatten under the weight of 1,000,000 hearts. But now, our journey across the strait is coming to an end. Today, we leave the history books behind and look at the bridge as it exists in the timeless now. Today, we rest with the eternal sentinel. Close your eyes one last time. Take the deepest, slowest breath you have taken all night. Hold it at the top, feeling the stillness. Then release it like a long, slow wave receding from the shore. You are no longer a traveler. You are no longer a witness. You are a part of the landscape. Visualize the Golden Gate not as a construction of man, but as a permanent part of the Earth's geometry. It has stood for nearly a century, and it stands there now, at this very moment, while the world sleeps. Imagine the bridge at 3 o'clock in the morning. There are no cars. The roadway is a silent orange canyon. The air is perfectly still. The only sound is the ancient rhythmic breathing of the ocean far below, the slow rise and fall of the tide against the concrete piers. The bridge is the eternal sentinel. It stands at the edge of the continent, the last thing the sun touches before it disappears into the west, and the first thing the moon illuminates as it rises over the city. It is the guardian of the gate, watching over the transition between the known world of the land and the infinite mystery of the sea. As you breathe slowly, think of the millions of stories that have crossed this span. The lovers who looked at the moon from the railings, the families moving toward a new life, the dreamers who looked at the towers and realized that nothing is impossible. All those stories are etched into the steel, layered like the coats of paint that protect it. But tonight, the bridge is not thinking of stories. It is simply existing. Think of the towers. They're rooted so deeply into the bedrock that they feel the very pulse of the tectonic plates. They are anchored to the bones of the earth. Feel that same anchorage in your own body. You are heavy. You are grounded. You are as unmovable as the North Tower. No wind can shake you. No current can pull you away. Visualize the main cables, those graceful sweeping arcs. In the moonlight, they look like the silver hair of a sleeping giant. They are relaxed now. The tension of the day has bled away into the cool night air. They are not working. They are just holding. And you too are just holding. You are holding on to this moment of perfect crystalline peace. Think of the international orange one last time. In the total darkness, the color is invisible to the eye, but you can feel its warmth in your mind. It is a color of safety. It is the color of a promise kept. It is the color of a sunset that is waiting just below the horizon, ready to return when you wake. But for now, the sun is a long way off. Imagine the fog rolling in for the final time tonight. It is thicker than ever before. It swallows the base of the bridge, then the roadway, then the cables. Finally, it reaches the tops of the towers. The red beacons become soft, glowing embers in the white void. The bridge is completely hidden now. It has retreated into its own secret world. This is your sanctuary. The world cannot find you here. The noise of the future and the echoes of the past are all lost in the mist. There is only the now. There is only the rhythm of your heart, which has slowed to match the heartbeat of the bridge. Thump, pause, thump, pause. The Golden Gate is a bridge between two shores, but it is also a bridge between two states of being. You have crossed over from the shore of the waking world. You are now standing at the very center of the span, suspended in the quiet air of the dream world. The eternal sentinel is watching over you. It will stand guard while you drift away. It will keep the wind at bay. It will hold the stars in place. It will wait for the light so that you don't have to. Feel yourself dissolving into the steel, into the fog, and into the dark, quiet water. You are the bridge. You are the gate. You are the silence. The history is finished. The dream is complete. The sentinel is at its post. Breathe in the eternity of the moment. Breathe out the last of the world. You are home. You are safe. You are asleep. Sleep as the sentinel stands. Sleep as the mist becomes a dream. Sleep in the eternal peace of the Golden Gate. Closing question. As we leave the sentinel to its final watch, I must ask you, now that our journey through the Golden Gate is complete, which corner of history shall we explore when you next return? Perhaps the ancient libraries of Alexandria or the silent moonlit gardens of Kyoto. Sleep now. The past is safe with us.
The Rhythms of Steel. The story of the Golden Gate Bridge is a 15-chapter odyssey that transforms a massive engineering feat into a living, breathing sanctuary for sleep. The Foundation of a Dream, Parts 1 through 2. The journey begins in the fog-drenched office of Joseph Strauss, a dreamer who envisioned a path across the impossible strait. We explore the daunting geology of the gate, a place where the Earth's crust was torn apart by ancient forces, creating a deep, turbulent canyon that many believed could never be bridged. The Aesthetic Soul, Parts 3 through 4. The narrative shifts from raw earth to elegant design. We examine the Art Deco architecture, where vertical ridges and stepped towers create a visual rhythm of light and shadow. This is followed by the story of International Orange, a color chosen by Irving Morrow to harmonize with the terracotta hills and remain visible in the thick white mists, rejecting the Navy's wish for jarring yellow and black stripes. The Physical Struggle, Parts 5 through 7. We go beneath the waves in Digging into the Deep, reliving the pressurized, silent work of divers anchoring the foundations into the bedrock. Back on the surface, we witness the weaving of the web, where miles of steel wire were spun into massive cables. We then rest in the Great Cradle, the legendary safety net that saved 19 lives and provided a psychological sense of security for the high iron workers. The Sensory Experience, Parts 8 through 10. The bridge comes alive through sound and atmosphere. We listen to the roar of the wind, exploring how the bridge acts as a giant musical instrument, humming and whistling in the Pacific gales. We relive Opening Day, a celebration where only pedestrians claimed the span, and we lose ourselves in the white sanctuary of the famous Golden Gate fog, which muffles the world and turns the bridge into a ghostly, quiet cathedral. The Endurance of the Icon, Parts 11 through 13. The story dives into the alchemy of time, discussing the constant battle against salt and rust. As night falls, we observe the midnight beacons, the amber and crimson lights that guide ships and planes. We then learn about the bridge that breathes, discovering how the steel physically expands and contracts with the temperature, rising and falling in a slow-motion metallic respiration. Legacy and Peace, Parts 14 through 15. The series nears its end with the 50th anniversary, a historic day when nearly 1 million people gathered, causing the bridge's great arch to flatten under the immense weight, a testament to its resilience. Finally, we reach the Eternal Sentinel, a meditation on the bridge as it stands tonight.
a silent orange guardian at the edge of the world, watching over the gateway between the land and the infinite sea.